Hey folks, Carla Sands here, putting in a plug for Gene Valentino's Grassroots Truthcast.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
Talking to this morning is Gene Valentino, the Velvet Hammer down in Pensacola, Florida. Good morning, Gene.
Good morning, gentlemen.
How you doing?
We're doing well. I'm looking at all these balls in the air, trying to figure out rhyme and reason here. But I need to get on the phone, on the air with you guys in the morning and just free my mind of all this craziness. Let's talk about commodes.
Well, you know, we try to flush our minds every once in a while and try to get a new perspective on what they're going on.
I think other leaders of the world ought to listen to you and and heed your advice on some of that stuff.
Well, you know what?
I've
led a shelter life. I've lived in 3 states, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia, but Georgia used to be a good state. They're fair now. But Alabama and Mississippi are still those good southern states where we go to church and we don't complain too much and we join the military or the National Guard. Camp Shelby, a big training ground here, and we used to say every summer, lock the women, children, and small animals up. The Alabama Guard's in town, you know.
Yeah.
So we had to be careful like that. But I was talking to Charles about it and thinking in my mind and a couple of different things that have crossed. I heard a young TV anchor earlier this morning, 4 or 5 o'clock or something, talking about asking a co-host if they liked Easter candy or Halloween candy better. And I thought, you don't even know what Easter's all about. Easter's a holy holiday. Halloween's a pagan holiday. And I don't understand young people today. I belong to veterans organizations. I served 2 years in the military. And, you know, I would say, and we're non-political by all of them. Anyone I belong to, this is not them speaking. It's just me, but 75% or more are pro-Donald Trump in America and saving the world, stuff like that. But then, you know, I go out on the streets, even in good old Hattiesburg in the South I love so much. There's a protest last Saturday for No More Kings or something like that. What's happening with the young people in the country today, Gene?
It's an excellent question, but I just think when there is no direction, no vision, no future, people ramble, people stray into directions, not because it makes sense or it's even logical, but because there's nowhere else to turn. Meanwhile, you have the Gen Z on a religious revival nationwide. You have these younger folks stepping up, not only to find themselves, but to meet with the Lord and to experience what has been talked about through the Billy Graham type of movements over the generations. It's a revival that is welcomed. And I think with all of the confusion in the politics and world peace issues, I think that the Gen Z crowd may surprise us in the next decade with a sense of stability and balance and direction. It'll be a governing influence that'll occupy the judiciary, the legislative branches, and the administrative branches. And I think we will see a sense of normalcy return. It's the pendulum swinging back. It's logic saying, we tried it all these other crazy ways, and look what we got. It's coming back. And I think Donald Trump is here today with us, it must be a providential thing. It must be godly, because we were one click away from the total takedown of world order and peace. As we've been spoiled since World War II. We've come to set a standard into motion that we all expect. And we remember and honor those who died for us. They're seniors now. They're pushing 100 years of age, and we look at them as some sort of different generation. Not. They are vital heroes that are just up in age now, and tomorrow we're going to be there as well. But today they should be honored because of what they've done to save this nation for the decades. Oh, the headlines occupy our attention with Pam Bondi on the way out, Lee Zeldin or Todd Blanche and others coming in at the DOJ. But there's going to be some governing balance that kicks in that I think is going to be so good for this nation. If you really want to know what's bugging me, I'm bothered that the United Nations Security Council has to vote today to suggest to its fellow members that they get behind the initiative to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It bothers me also that 4 nations, in particular Italy, Germany, Spain, and Great Britain, sit back and push America outside its borders and says, no, in your response to Iran, don't enter our airspace, is to me, as members of NATO with us, the biggest insult to America that we've seen. Said bluntly, I am sick and tired of these European nations defecating. Get that commode conversation out again. Defecating on America. We are done with the way they have treated us over the last 4 decades in particular. I don't care whether you like America or the bad behavior of a select few in this nation. Freedom, unfortunately, gives us great advantages, and sometimes encumbers us with some disadvantages that we don't appreciate. We need to get those 4 nations in particular. They get a spanking unlike ever before, and I hope Donald Trump, once we address the Iran issue, has time to focus on what we're going to do with those 4 nations. But they've been playing us. They joke about us behind our back. They make fun of America as a bunch of lackluster, cultureless people, which is not true. America has principles, which is the best culture of all. As we stand by a principle of freedom and liberty, and we know, Ted, that if it wasn't for us, they would have been gone a long time ago. If Donald Trump does what he says, and let them fend for themselves, the new attitude, I think they're in for a big surprise and will be begging for American support again. Meanwhile, I hope he does what he also says. He's frustrated with NATO. We need to pull out of NATO. We can choose who we want to be allies with and friends with, and give our resources to save liberty and freedoms around the world.
You know, it's a world full of a short memory. The people of these European countries that are dealing with this attitude today, their parents, or certainly their grandparents or great-grandparents, are all gone because they don't remember the raft of a man named Adolf Hitler or the Japanese and what they tried to do to the world, but the only thing stopping them was the American people, the American military. And, if they want to sit back there and it's like, there's a bully somewhere and you sit there and making fun of us or don't help us with setting things up, there's going to come a time that you're going to be begging. And I think that's, somebody told me that is in the military and has a little bit, says one of the reasons that some of the military of the European nations didn't do much to help us in France is they don't have it. They're totally counting on us.
Yeah. Well, it was my Italian grandfather, an Italian immigrant who came in the country legally, by the way, who served in World War I. And I remember him turning to me when I was younger. And I remember it from the teenage days before he passed. And he said to me, "Failure to defend the rights of others may someday result in your rights not being defended." This is an Italian immigrant who didn't have his hand out. He had his hand up, and he was trying to do things to help America. He was a hero. He saved many American lives in World War I. But it was indicative of my other grandparents who it was an era where it was an honor to do so, and they were leaving behind a whole culture, a whole nation. He left behind Italy and the Mussolini regime, and at the time, and didn't care about being Italian. He was so proud to boast about being American. Now, today we use the word assimilation. Here we have an immigration crisis where these fools are coming in thinking not only are they going to hold on to their heritage from where they came, which is fine, but they're not going to assimilate into an American culture. They're going to put our culture and rules aside and simply live by the rules and standards from where they came. Well, I'm not denying your culture and from where you came, but when you come into my living room, don't put your muddy feet up on the coffee table. How about that for an explanation? I mean, you're coming into our world, assimilate into our way of life, and we'll do the same when we come into your home.
Wow, good thoughts right there. Just real quickly, in about 60 seconds, how about that space rocket that we sent up this week, the Artemis 2?
Yeah. Well, we're in the second day of Artemis 2. That's the journey toward the lunar orbit. It's the precursor for Artemis 3 and 4, Ted. This 10-day mission is supposed to have, it has many objectives, but one of the things they're doing is revisiting the locations of potential landing sites. And for Donald Trump, it's the staging of the real mission, the trip to Mars. The trip to Mars in the 21st century, where we're going to see, hopefully, a man enter the Martian atmosphere and land on Mars. Boy, wouldn't that be something?
I tell you what, I hope I live long enough to see it. Gene, thank you so very much for joining us today. You could have taken Good Friday off, but you're a pleasure to have with us, and thank you for your service to our country, and keep it up, and we look forward to next week.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Judge. It's good to hear from both of you.
Thank you very much. Gene Valentino.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, it's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.